It's Spoilerin time, folks. This is the show that takes all the hard work from cord killers, where we figure out who's streaming what and where and what services are there. And then we watch some stuff and talk about it here. This week, we will talk about Star Trek Lower Decks, episodes 4 and 5 of season 2, Rick and Morty season 5, Enders 9 and 10, and Ted Lasso season 2, episodes 7 and 8. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Yeah, so the only question left is, where are we going to begin, Tom?
Let's start in the heart of it all with Ted Lasso. So episodes 207 and 208, Headspace and Man City. And as good as Headspace is, Eileen and I still crack each other up with references to the whole Keeley and Roy thing about needing space and all that stuff. Maybe it hit a little home here. I don't know. Man City. The Man City episode is a masterpiece where I'm sitting. Brian, what did you think of these two?
Yeah, I liked the fact that we've had a lot of bottle episodes that are cute for a specific reason. Sure. Man City was like, oh, we're finally back to telling the big story again, are we? I liked it. I liked that there were awful people that I didn't like in the form of Jamie Tartt's dad. And I like that relevant advances were made in people's relationships, both between Sam and
Rebecca.
Boss Lady, Rebecca, yeah, and also, very flatly and directly with Ted and the psychologist, and
yeah,
it's I like that they're bringing in a bit of darkness that, because again, remember just how dark and cynical that show started off looking. And it's the easy thing, storytelling wise, would be to take away what we've earned so far, but they're not doing that. Instead, they're patiently exposing us to more complications and darkness in the form of, we've met the psychologist and so on, and we are getting hints as we see, the empty bottles of vodka all over her apartment or whatever, that there's some that there is latent darkness to be healed in there. And I'm all here for it. I really, really like what they're doing right now.
Yeah. The doc, Sharon, is her name. And I just found that, so I'm not trying to show you up there. Like I was casting about for it too. Sharon, it has been a bit of a closed door. We haven't known anything about her. She's been not exactly a flat character, but unlike the rest of the characters, we haven't seen her vulnerable side. And then we got it all in this episode. And what I loved is that they told us right up front, like, oh yeah, Sharon doesn't like Ted because Sharon and Ted are alike. And Sharon has a psychologist, just like Sharon is a psychologist, and yet it's necessary and it's helpful, and she's got her own demons, and let's just put them all out here. And that makes it believable, while also being humorous, that she would call Ted, because she sort of knows that he'll understand because he's like her. And also he's top of mind because they were just talking about him in, leading right up to the car crash. You get a piece of drama there where you're like, man, is she going to be okay? Turns out, yes, they're not going to go there. But it really does change the dynamic of that relationship between Ted and Sharon to be much deeper than it would have anyway.
It was also a bit of a press release where it's like, okay, starting now, you can consider Sharon a human being.
A human being, yeah.
With all of the flaws and difficulties that come along with that. And because she's a human being now, you can see how much it means for Ted to make himself vulnerable to her and with her. Where all of a sudden...
And don't forget that we get the reverse. She calls him when she doesn't really remember. He calls her, I mean, granted, she's his doctor, but out of nowhere to just be like, I saw Jamie with his father, and it reminded me that my father killed himself. And we're like, oh, okay. They were getting a little more depth, a backstory. That could have felt like a cheap throwaway reveal.
And it felt authentic in the way that those conversations happen in real life, because in real life, you say something and then oftentimes you follow it up with, hey, we got to put a pin in this. Now's not the right time to have this conversation. We'll loop back on it later.
We also get Rebecca. We finally get Rebecca and Sam, like you mentioned. We get Rebecca having the very, very responsible reaction of, no, Sam, you work for me. This can't happen. And then we have Rebecca giving in to the fact that there's obviously chemistry. We've seen it on Mantor before we even knew it was Sam. And then we get them deciding that, okay, this can't keep happening. And don't forget, in the background, that Rebecca blew off a major advertiser and changed mid-season the advertising and blew off a huge, powerful connection in order to keep Sam on the team.
Before there was a personal relationship.
We know it was before.
But that'll be, I mean, that's a ticking time bomb. Also, 21 is very young, Tom.
It's incredibly young.
It's the perfect age differential. It's the
and
perfect
her reaction
power
is
differential.
the right reaction. It's like, oh, well, immediately, right? But then slowly, it's like, well, we can just have dinner, I guess. And I mean, you feel the frog being boiled there, don't you?
No. This is going to be a lot of trouble. This is going to be so much trouble. They're going to be insane. And for the life of me, I can't vocalize why I'm so certain. Like why? Nowadays people seem pretty concerned about power differentials and age differentials and that kind of thing. And maybe 10 years ago, the mere fact that it was a woman who was in power and a man who was younger would have made things okay. But I don't think those are the days we live in now.
She calls it all out. I think the most brilliant part about this is she calls it all out at the beginning. This can't happen. You work for me. There's way too big of an age difference. I was grooming you on Banter, right? She checks all the tick boxes of everything that's going to be in
this
the
is
Daily
how
Mail
this is going to look,
later.
and this is why we must not. Oh my God, you're so hot, Sam. Get in here.
And it's believable. It's believable that she's like, yes, she knows she shouldn't do this. And it's believable how she lets it happen. Right. And it's going to be very interesting how they handle the fallout. And also, don't we get the call that the company pulled out of the oil fields?
Yeah. Oh, no. I mean, it's like that episode is all about dads. It's about Jamie's dad. It's about Sam's dad. It's about
good dad.
It's about Ted's relationship with his dad who killed himself. I mean, it's dads all the way down. Yeah.
Now I know we're giving Headspace short shrift here. The only thing I'll say is that we got more of Nate behaving a little bit big-headed in Headspace. There's just a sprinkling of that in Man City, but that's a pot on simmer as well.
They gotta pick a lane with Nate. I'm getting annoyed. Like, what story are you telling me?
I
just pick a lane.
I think we're telling the story of Nate not being the better person, not remembering where he came from. We've only got 4 more episodes to tell it though. They've been slowly boiling it. So I'm not sure when that's going to come. The other one we've been keeping on simmer is Beard. His whole story has just kind of been, trotting along in the background, and it would be easy to lose it amongst all the other things. But there's a very pivotal scene where Beard doesn't want to hang out after the loss. Doesn't really joke around with Ted about it, even though Ted tries, and just kind of wanders off himself. And Ted says, like, don't forget 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And he just kind of grunts. So I think, and also the name of the next episode implies that next episode, we're going to see what happens with Beard.
Oh, okay. I didn't know the title, so I'll find out next week.
I won't tell you then.
Okay.
I'm looking at it in Wikipedia. It's just the title. It's not a description.
Yeah.
But his name is in the title. That's
okay.
All right. Anything else on Ted Lasso?
No, it earns so much season 1. I can't tell how much of it is coasting on the success of season 1 and how much of it is truly good in season 2. But I do know that I felt like it's kind of drifted here and again, but they definitely showed up for this most recent episode.
For me, there was a fair amount of coasting in the early part of the season that I felt was earned. Right? It's like, hey, we already introduced you to Roy. Let's have a fun Roy story.
Yeah.
We already introduced you to these characters. Let's have a Christmas episode. Like, I'm like, that's fine. That's okay. I do like these characters, so I like spending time. If that had kept going for too much longer, I would have gotten very annoyed. I am not getting annoyed. And in fact, I think the Man City episode is the one where it feels like, all right, now we are ratcheting up the story. So let's see where we come in the home stretch. Let's talk about Rick and Morty, the end of season 5, episodes 9 and 10, which is Forgetting Sarek Mortshall and Rick Marai Jack. Brian, what'd you think of these two?
I very carefully am choosing my words.
Let me guess. There's no such thing as a bad episode of Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty is beginning to feel dangerously close to work. And it's kind of weird in that it's facing the exact same problem that the MCU is having. By going, multiversal, all time, all space, anything can be, whatever. With the MCU, I lose perspective and I have a harder time remembering why I'm supposed to care about various characters or what can and can't be done, what the rules are, whatever. Oh boy, that last episode, straight up, even where Evil Morty chuckles and says, I'm Evil Morty. And then I don't even know what happened. I don't know. I no longer know what's happening. And then with the little end of season, Mr. Poopy Butthole saying, a very, Dan Harmon-esque, you should love the people who are close to you. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening anymore. I don't know what I'm looking at, Tom. I'm sorry.
I felt like Rick Marai Jack was an example of a fine Rick and Morty episode that I wasn't exactly engaged by through most of it. And then he picked up two, was it crows or ravens?
Two crows as his sidekick. And I like sat straight up. I'm like, okay, this is great. And then we get an anime introduction to Rick and the Two Crows. I'm like, all right, this is pretty fun. I'm enjoying this. And I'm like, if I had to sit through most of Rick Marai Jack to get to this, that's worth it. That was a good time. Not that long of an episode. Then we went to Forgetting Sarek Mortshall. Oh, I think you have the order reversed on those. I think the first one. Yeah.
But I'm sorry. Forgetting Sarek Mortshall is the one where I'm like, I'm kind of bored. Then
right. Then we get into the Samurai Jack stuff. Yeah.
And the anime, because we get the Two Crows at the very end of Forgetting Sarek Mortshall, and I was like, okay, this is fun. This is interesting. He's off. He's like literally off, and he's a better Rick now with the Two Crows. He's kinder. And then we get the anime and Rick Marai Jack. You're right. And I was like, this is great. Okay, I'm having a fun time. And then as I wasn't shocked, the Two Crows go off on their own and are better crows for it. And we find out the backstory, and they warn us, you don't want to know the backstory. It's not good for you. But we find out the backstory. We find out the truth that this Rick that we know lost his daughter and his wife. And he went and found an abandoned daughter, which they had indicated they'd teased before. And I was of two minds. One, it was like, okay, I'm glad to know the backstory. I'm the kind of person who likes to know the history of something. So I'm enjoying the expansion of lore. But like you say, the thing with lore, and the MCU fights this too, and I think they fight it very successfully, but they fight it, is the thing with lore is stories have a beginning, middle, and end. And if you're telling a story, even if you're telling it over 5 seasons or 10 seasons, there needs to be a beginning, middle, and end. Rick and Morty does not have a beginning, middle, and end on purpose. And it's cool for a few times to be like, we don't have a beginning, middle, and end. F you guys. You want lore here? Fine. Here's your lore, but don't get used to it. At a certain point, it's like you did that joke before. So it's not even a criticism. It's just like your clock's running out on doing that style of storytelling.
In their defense, it's not even their clock. It's our clock with how much longer we want to sit in.
There's sort of a
this
natural clock on that kind of storytelling. Yeah. No, exactly. And so that's not to say that I didn't really love Rick and Morty Jack. I did, and it's great. And I'm hoping that if anybody can find a way to extend the life of this kind of storytelling longer than it has any right to, it's these folks. And if they keep bringing me some Rick and Two Crows every so often, that'll extend the amount of time I stay interested.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to make clear that I hope nothing I said or intimated sounded like I'm not enjoying the show and that it's not awesome. I mean, I triple loved hearing the voice of Rob Schraub in there as somebody who deeply misses the Harmontown podcast. All of those characters I've enjoyed so much, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm not far off from where you are, where I was watching this kind of with one eye starting to drift, especially forgetting Sark Morchal, even more so than Rick Morty Jack. Any other thoughts on Rick and Morty?
No, it's very good, but it's also very Rick and Morty. And I'm willing to admit, after 10 years, maybe I've had a lot of Rick and Morty.
It's a lot of good Rick and Morty, you know?
Yeah.
So are you saying I shouldn't watch it?
Oh, yeah. If you haven't started,
I haven't started.
I will rewatch all of them with you.
Okay.
Like if I get to see it through your fresh pair of eyes, that's a different game.
Yeah, I've never seen an episode.
Oh, my God. All right.
Not at one.
All right.
Clear your calendar.
Corian time coming next week.
That's right.
All right. Let's talk Star Trek Lower Decks, episodes 4 and 5 of season 2. Mugatu Gumato, where a rare Mugatu is detected on a planet it should not be on, and the Cerritos is sent to investigate. And an embarrassment of duplers, in which the dupler race that duplicates when it gets uncomfortable starts duplicating out of control.
I had the very special experience of watching the first of these, the Mugatu or whatever.
Mugatu Gumato, yeah.
With a literal Klingon. Paul Mattingly, co-host of Matt and Mattingly's Ice Cream Social.
Right.
He was a Klingon at the Hilton Star Trek experience, and so he knows all of the deep lore references and all of that. And I asked him, he confessed that he hadn't watched a single episode of Lower Decks because he was afraid that it would not be good. He was afraid that it would be punching down, but instead I got to watch him watch his first episode, and it was a delight. It was awesome. It was really great.
Yeah, the Mugatu was the thing I had to pause and be like, all right, remind me what this is. And that was fun. There are a million, way more than I ever, I'm jealous that you got to sit with Mattingly, because there are way more references than I ever would have caught here. And yet, Bryce isn't here to verify this, but I imagine it's still a solid storyline that is told here about, the Ferengi trying to sell the horns and the away team attacks and the Mugatos are released, etc. I also love the idea of the shuttle scam where they pretend to have their shuttle destroyed. And
so they can sue the Federation, essentially. Yeah.
And get a new shuttle out of it. Yeah, good stuff. An embarrassment of duplers, though, I think was even stronger. Frankly, the dupler race is just ridiculous as a concept. And yet I loved the twist where they were like, oh, you need to get mad at them. And then they're not embarrassed anymore. They get mad. And then they start, because I'm like, how is this going to end? You can't have duplers duplicating forever. And no, you just berate them and then they consolidate back into an aggrieved and indignant single dupler.
That one was fun. I like both of them, but
I really loved Mariner trying to get into the party. and Boimler being able to get in and Mariner can't get in, and then they end up at the dive bar. It was cute. I liked it.
It was. I don't know how much they're going to lean into a will they, won't they with Boimler and Mariner. Whereas I do feel like they're playing with that with Tendi and what's his name?
They absolutely are with Tendi and Rutherford.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I feel like with Boimler and Mariner, the only outcome of that sort of a relationship exploration that I would be satisfied with is Boimler falls for Mariner, no doubt, right? That happens. That's 100% believable. And Mariner is just like, no, dude, you're not interested, not my type.
Right. No, I think that there's an incredible amount of space to play. Even though they're kind of locked to a specific time period, a specific subgenre within the larger Next Generation Voyager, they're somewhere wedged in there. But I think that strangely, by having those hard barriers, they're only better positioned to surprise and delight us.
I think the trick is that they gave themselves permission to not do the Star Trek things. Right. So they're like, yeah, we're tied in lore wise, perhaps, but Mariner's not going to follow the Prime Directive. Mariner's not going to always be the better person. Boimler is not the competent Starfleet officer who can always figure it out. And that's where the fun comes in. It's like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen because it's not Geordi and Captain Picard and Deanna Troi, because I know what they're capable of. These folks, I mean, Mariner has untold depths and is amazing as a character because she's incredibly competent at things she wants to do, but she doesn't always want to do them. So you don't always see that.
Well, and even on top of that, we flatly have seen stated that she puts herself in increasingly challenging situations. Like she makes trouble for herself because that's what's more interesting for her,
And it's funny from former Rick and Morty talent. So there you go.
Yep.
Star Trek Lower Decks, episodes 4 and 5 of season 2. Next week on Spoilerin Time, we will be talking about Ted Lasso episode 9. We will be talking about Lower Decks episode 6. And if you're like, oh, I guess they're not going to do it. Yes, we are going to do it. What we do in the shadows. I know episodes 1 and 2 already came out. We'll be talking about episodes 1, 2, and 3 next week on Spoilerin Time. We'll spoil you then.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.